Hello and welcome to Bald and Bloviating. I'm your very bald host, Mookie Spitz, and the one I'm bloviating with today is T.H. Forrest. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be back. I loved our last conversation. It was good.
We spoke recently on my other podcast, the Ink versus Algorithm Writers Pod, where we had a wonderful conversation about reading and writing. And now we're going to do arithmetic when it comes to adding up our crazy cultural and political situation. Because as I understand it, you've got a lot to say, not only regarding creativity and writing, but our nutty American society. Where to begin?
Right. Well, I think the best way to say my end of the conversation is I'm going to be mostly accurate and not at all thorough, but I'll do my best. And I worry at this point whether our democracy truly can be saved, because it's gone so much further beyond the Gilded Age and the Great Depression of concentration of wealth that we have right now. I think what I wanted to talk about, for listeners, and sorry, my chair just, what I wanted to talk about, for anybody that's listening is the concept of how the right has controlled the narrative such that people vote like very, rabidly against their own interests. And that includes like this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, or is it CPBF, CBFB, Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, that's currently being gutted. And it's going to run out of funding. Trump is trying to say that the funding for that protection bureau is illegal, which it's not. And that bureau is the very last bastion against the financial institutions, robbing us like blind. And and it goes beyond financial institutions. It goes to airline regulations and things like that. So if you want to talk about that, I'm happy to dive into that topic.
That's a great place to start. So, Trump was elected not once, but now twice by convincing a lot of folks that government had overreached. That, in a sense, there's a deep state, there's a mysterious cabal of special interests, and government grew to the point of being unwieldy. And a big part of his job and one of his major promises was to shrink the government and to deregulate. Now, smaller government and deregulation are two of the foundational precepts of the right, of the conservative movement in America, and have been for decades. Trump, when he essentially absorbed the Republican Party and made it the MAGA brand, has taken these two foundational precepts to the extreme. So,
Yes.
specifically DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, ostensibly under Elon Musk until they had a cat fight,
Yeah.
purged the government in ways that is a mere reflection, in a sense, of FDR. Now, many people have blamed FDR for overreach. Roosevelt, the New Deal, America was in crisis, and FDR really extended the power of what's called the unitary executive, the president, beyond anything imaginable before him. And he did it in the name of saving America.
Yeah. And
Now,
he did save
Trump,
America.
well,
So
yeah, it did. I
it
mean,
did.
most historians agree that his actions, however extreme and often unconstitutional in retrospect, we could look at that,
Mm.
managed to save America. But it saved America by growing and bloating the government in ways that was unimaginable to the founding fathers and never conceived of before. And a lot of what has come after Roosevelt is, from the right's point of view, trying to fix that. The government got too big and regulations got too out of control. So
Right.
Trump is a looking glass version of FDR. He
Sure.
has expanded presidential power like no one since Roosevelt. And he's done it in the opposite direction by
Yeah.
dismantling the government and deregulating the hell out of everything that he can. So this goes to your specific point that the Consumer Bureau that you mentioned,
Yeah.
they're just
Regulation.
absolving the airlines of paying for passengers who get stuck.
Yeah.
There was a $700 allotment that the Biden administration set up with Buttigieg, that if you're inconvenienced, the airlines are accountable. No, 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 no.
Nope, that just got killed. And that's something that they have in the EU. I was having this conversation with my brother who leans conservative, and he's like, "Oh," and I was trying to explain like the EU has much better protections for airline travelers, and he's like, "Well, if I get if my flight's canceled, I get a new flight." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that you are not at all compensated by the airline for." Your time, and so you get a new flight, but like what about all the time that anyway, so they do it much better over there. As far as the New Deal, I don't think I would strongly disagree about bloating the government. It was stuff that was done necessarily, and it was stuff that was done for the common good instead of the way that Trump is trying to change things and to further enrich billionaires. And when he and his whole make America great again, and they point to the 50s and the 60s as being like this wonderful time, well, that's all because of the New Deal and how people were prosperous, and we had a graduated income tax for people that were earning a certain amount of money. They anything over this threshold, they had to pay an additional tax, and that paid for all our roads, for our infrastructure, for and the regulation that people buck against, that's all there to protect us. The regulations so that these businesses can't pollute our waters, these businesses can't pollute our air, that they are held accountable with asbestos and things like that, or make our buildings safer, and to keep the banks and the big business people from really profiting at our expense. And I don't understand, like, one thing I can't understand with these these big companies that sit on climate change, like Exxon, where they did this report back in, was it the 70s or whatever, they knew what was coming, and they still barrel through, and they want to deregulate oil, and just open up to drilling and fracking. And it's like, we live in a fishbowl. There is nowhere you can go on this planet that you're going to poison the air for everyone, even yourselves. Like, I just don't understand this, like, just insatiable greed. It's incredible. And then to get all these people to agree with it, like, yeah, we don't want to have big business regulating us. And Doge, on the subject of Doge, he went in and he was like, we're going to make it so efficient, and we're going to find all this like bloat, and they didn't. The fact of the matter is that the government has not changed. The employment of the government, the employee levels, the number of employees the government has not really changed. It's remained pretty static since the 1960s. And that's something, to think about, even when they talk about the Department of Homeland Security, like that, talk about adding on a government that does absolutely nothing. We could do away with that. I'll agree with you that part of the government is hugely bloated. You talk to anybody in law enforcement, FBI, whatever, like the Department of Homeland Security really doesn't do much, and it was unnecessary. But as far as the other stuff, the regulations that they want to do away with are, for our own good. And, if just so that the businesses can save a bundle, not having to have these regulations is just insane to me. And also, let's talk about Doge one more second. I believe that was all kind of a ruse, because what Elon did was he came in and he just wanted everybody's data. He took our data. He took millions, 30 million or more Americans' data. I'd have to check the number on that, but took people's data, and it's somewhere. Nobody knows where it went. It's probably on some unsecure, server. And he wanted it because that's where the money is with AI and everything. That should frighten everybody because it was just a fishing expedition. He took it all. And then I don't think there was a real, maybe Trump didn't like that Ellen, I like to call him Ellen, was, stealing his thunder. But I really think that was just all fake. I think it was just like, because he came in, got what he wanted, and then left. And that was their, exit strategy. And now Ellen he's become the first trillionaire in the world. People don't understand how much money that is. And that's the billions. They don't even understand how much money that is.
A billion is 1,000 million, and a trillion is 1,000 billion. Now, 1,000 billion is 1,000. That's 1,000 million, which is a million. So a trillion is $1 million. But well, just in terms of staying objective, he's not a trillionaire yet. So they made a deal. He's got to apparently double Tesla revenue, and do it with robots, most likely, because the Chinese are already kicking our ass with EVs. So he's not a trillionaire yet.
Yeah. He already has too much money. That's the thing. Like I've seen these things. I want to look it up, but seen these things. I'm sure you have too, where people have put the concept of, $1 million and $1 billion in equating it with time, and the difference that like how much time $1 million would be in like minutes versus how much $1 billion would be in minutes. And to get to the level of the richness, I can't think of the word, the richness that Ellen has, you would go, like in minutes, it would take you back to like before BCE. Like it's crazy.
That is true. And I know Bernie Sanders for decades has been fighting for the working people of this country. So,
Yep.
Billionaire is bad. However, most money that billionaires have is tied up in equity. And it's usually the equity of their own corporations. And when you look at Bezos, he gave us Amazon for better or for worse. So if you need toilet paper, it'll arrive in hours rather than days, which is of huge societal benefit. SpaceX, you say what you will about Elon or Ellen. Or Elon, the Musk. SpaceX has revolutionized space travel, and from the satellites that make the internet available throughout the world to the new boosters that land themselves. If the human species is going to survive, a great way to do it would be possibly leaving the planet. That might even be necessary. So there are benefits to what these billionaires have provided, and most of their capital is tied up in their own equity. So it's contentious to assume that we ban a billionaire, because billionaires are the plutocrats who now, whether we like it or not, drive technology, drive the motion forward.
Yeah. I think more importantly, we should be protecting our planet because this is our planet. We shouldn't be trying to leave. My problem with, I think, the way that everything is done with the way that they do things with their equity is the stock buybacks and things like that that inflate their numbers and whatnot at whose expense, ultimately, when you're looking at stocks and you're looking at people and you're looking at CEO to worker pay ratios and what CEOs make and at the consumer's expense, pretty much. That's what I have a problem with. And I'm not trying to ban billionaires, but we certainly need to be taxing them. When you look at the taxes that Bezos has paid, or a lot of these top companies, like we pay more in taxes. That's insane. That's insane that we would.
Well, by percentage, yeah, that's true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
you could this is what I love about Elizabeth Warren. You could do a graduated income tax over on a billion, on these billionaires or these multimillionaires, and have it so that even if you tax them 0.5% over a certain amount, this country would make trillions. So my feeling is that, we're not taxing them, and we would only have to tax them just the microscopic amount we would earn trillions in this country. And I think that would alleviate the tax burden for the rest of us.
I'm not so sure of those facts, just to be honest, with percentages and taxing and how much money they're actually making versus how much money is tied up in equity and the actual benefit society-wide, just because, you're talking a lot of money. But let's take a couple steps back, because
Okay.
you started by saying that Trump has been a maestro of encouraging people to vote against their best interests. And this is categorically true by any stretch of the imagination, because Trump, especially the second time around, convinced many minority voters, many disenfranchised minority voters, to jump ship, traditionally Democrat voters, to vote Republican, many of them voting for the first time and certainly voting for a Republican, a MAGA Republican, for the first time. So how and why do you think he did this is number one. But to me, the most significant question is, how did the Democrats blow it so badly? I think that you and I can go on and on about the evils of Donald Trump and the problems that we're in right now. And you and I will be mostly in agreement about most of these topics. Where I think a learning experience is evident is trying to figure out how Donald Trump, we knew what we were getting ourselves in for. And yet, he won by the largest margin, and fair and square, despite his own election denial frenzy and propaganda and bullshit. He won all the swing states, and he won a majority of voters. Donald Trump won the popular vote his second time through. Now, you can say that it was a hairline margin, and you could say that there were only 1 million or 2 votes decided the election. You can slice and dice the data and say that it was really only a matter of a few tens of thousands of votes in a few key places. But the fact is that he won all the swing states and he won the popular vote. And here's the other thing. He's been keeping his promises. He promised to do his best to gut the government. He promised to do his best to deregulate. He promised to do his best to shut down the border. He promised that he would bring about mass deportations. All right. So the list goes on, and it's not like it's a bait and switch here. The American people knew exactly what Trump 2.0 would be like. And the only surprise out of this whole how long has it been? 9 months now, 10 months.
Feels like
is
8 years.
the frenzy of what he's done. But it's been keeping promises. You got to give it to the MAGA movement and the MAGA minions and the MAGA maniacs that there's no bait and switch here. There are no surprises, and they're going for it. Now, I just bring that up because you heard it, I heard it. The Democrats who used to vote Democrat, who flipped and voted for Trump, heard it. And it worked. And conversely, the Harris Waltz campaign, with $1 billion in funding, failed to win the presidential election. So what does this say about us as a country? But most significantly, what does this say about the Democrat Party? They tried for the Obama 2.0 with the Democrat convention with Michelle and Barack, and it had that Obama zeitgeist, right? It's like, bring back the good old days. Well, guess what? The second term of the Obama administration didn't work out that well for a lot of people. It spawned the Tea Party. It pretty much led to Trump's ascendancy. I'm not blaming Barack. I'm just saying that it didn't work. People didn't want to go back.
Oh, I can explain it. I could explain it incredibly clearly to you. Obama's first term, for the first 2 years, like Trump's term right now, he had all branches of government. However, he was up against Mitch McConnell and Matt Boner. No, not Boner. John Boner. I'm sorry. He likes to pronounce it Boehner, but it's Boner.
He went into weed, by the way. He's a big weed guy.
And then you had Matt Ryan. Anyway, Paul Ryan.
Meg Ryan.
Yeah. So he had the majority for 2 years, but there was the filibuster, okay? And he was fought at every turn. You think, why didn't he get more done? We had the filibuster, okay? And then the midterms, we lost. And from there, even in the second presidency, we did not have the other branches, and that's why everything fell apart. Everybody likes to say, like, Obama, was this great president, and he was in some ways, but he actually was the first one to separate children from parents at the border. He also deported a lot of people. Look it up. You would think that he wouldn't, but he did. And he, had a lot of like centrist leaning ideals, corporate ideals, same with Clinton. So that's why. And the government, the Democratic Party has never recovered from that. They had, like, Bernie Sanders was very popular, but the Democratic National Committee, whatever, the DNC, chose to hype Hillary over him and lost a tremendous number of young voters. And in that, young male voters. And so when we talk about now the Trump election and how did he win a second time and in a landslide, and he made a lot of promises that he has kept, yes, but he also made a lot of promises that spoke to poor people or working class people, that he, and everybody actually, in saying that he was going to he was going to bring down the price of groceries, he was going to bring down the price of gas. None of that has happened. In fact, all of that is up. Coffee prices are up. Grocery prices are up. Like, you go down the list of all the consumer goods that have gone up in the face of his very illegal, even according to the Supreme Court, who's not taking it on, but he knows that if they did take it on, they would find his tariffs illegal because tariffs have to go through Congress.
They are taking it on.
Yeah. Oh, they are? Okay. I heard they pushed the pause button on that.
There's big expectations for them to take it on.
Well, I hope they do, because they are very illegal, what he's done. And, we'll talk about the Supreme Court in a minute and what they've just passed in terms of U.S. passports. But at any rate, like, the reasoning, we have lost the young in the Democratic Party. I don't know. I can't say that, for 100% that having a woman, especially a woman of color, hurt us. I don't know, but I do know that Kamala, aside from being a woman, also was deeply unpopular for some of the cases that she prosecuted as the attorney general for, no, what was she in? She was a prosecutor in California. Anyway, she prosecuted a lot of cases that were deeply unpopular with a lot of young voters. And I just think we have a problem with, like, coming up against a force of nature like Trump, who has been getting away with things that would have tanked any other presidency, and doing it with, like, he's just such a force of nature that we don't have anybody that compelling. And we really have to put somebody forward. I mean, Gavin Newsom is a he's kind of a contender. I love that his social media, which by the way is run by a young woman of color, and he mocks Trump in all of his tweets and social media. I love it so much. Thank you for your attention to this matter in all caps. It's so great. And I really like Mandami. I think he's come in and been like, he's going to shake things up. And his transition team is all women. I love that. And I think that he's going to do great things. The tax rate, people are like, oh, New Yorkers are going to like flee. All the millionaires are going to flee. Just like they said that about Boston. We passed the millionaires tax rate. Oh my God, we're going to lose all the millionaires. They're going to leave. No, we didn't lose any millionaires. In fact, we gained more. Okay. And then secondly, the tax rate in New York is just going to be the same as New Jersey. So it doesn't make, it's all this fear mongering. And that brings me to my second point, I think, about how we lost this election is the messaging. And the far right has no problem blatantly lying on all of their conservative channels, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax. They just lie. And then if there's fact checking, they don't even bother. They'll do it on their website, which they know none of their, especially not anybody over 60, none of their over 60 voters are going to check those facts, and they just believe it. And I see it. I watch Fox News. I've heard it. I'm not, I've heard the egregious lies, and they're all about fear and patriotism, and these people are constitutional warriors.
Let's talk about Mamdani for a second, because he is an awesome case study, if you will, in progressive liberalism, winning a major election. Now, it's on the municipal levels, New York City. I lived in New York City for 13 years.
Okay.
And it makes sense that a guy like Mamdani would rise so quickly and actually win with his agenda, because the price of living in New York is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
So running on affordability is a winning proposition. Now, there were other winners in this mini election, if you will, a few weeks ago. The governors of New Jersey and Virginia. Now, you can say that these are blue states anyway, but the margin by which they won is definitely a harbinger of good times potentially ahead for the Democrats in the midterms.
Yes.
All this is generally good news, that the disgraced Democrats with the big loss in the presidential election have a chance to come back, win back some seats, and perhaps even turn the tide in the Capitol in D.C. in Congress. This is possible, and it's exciting a lot of people, obviously people on the left, but even a lot of mainstream Americans who are freaked out by Trump 2.0. They think too much is too much, which might explain why a lot of voters are gravitating back to the Democrats, because, if you're a Latin person and you got excited about Trump saying that, we'll secure the border and we'll guarantee your job, and all of a sudden your Uncle Tio, who's been here 20 years minding his own business, just got iced and deported, then it kind of hits home that it's not just rhetoric and bombast and machismo and McDonald's drive-throughs, right, and garbage trucks, but this guy is violently, deporting people, and it's not good. So that is hitting home. But the point I'm making, though, is that Mamdani himself works in New York City, and the governorship of New Jersey was won under very different conditions. I mean, it's right across. Right across the Hudson, right?
Yeah.
So it's a different world there. And then Virginia is the same. So some people think that the Democrats need to go progressive lib, that Bernie Sanders should have run instead of Hillary, that the fundamental problem and breakdown in the Democrat Party, to your point, is that the Democrats haven't gone left enough. They haven't defended the working people. They haven't stuck to their guns about free universal health care. And they've basically dropped the ball. And this kind of compromise epitomized, to your point, by Barack Obama. It was a really, really funny Chris Rock sketch.
Oh, really?
I'm voting for the whitest president ever. I'm voting for Barack Hussein Obama. And then it showed Barack in golf clothes and then with his white step parents. And, it showed how white Barack was. And to your point, he was very much in the middle and kind of, kind of righty in a lot of ways. For example, immigration. He assassinated a lot. He authorized the assassination of a lot of people with drone strikes and special ops. And he did not want to be that guy. He was the first African American president, and he did not let the black out. He was trying to behave himself because he was setting a precedent. Just because I'm black doesn't mean I'm going to act black. And I think that was part of the sentiment that was there. Now, to your point, that might have backfired in ways, but what I am trying to get at, my question for you is, you're excited by Mamdani, but do you think a guy like Mamdani could actually win, let's say, the presidential election, where you need to win over a lot of big swaths of America? You need to flip red states that used to be blue. You want to bring them back blue.
Yeah.
And this kind of stuff just freaks a lot of people out.
Sure, because the messaging has been so hammered into them from the Conservative Party. The Overton window, okay, which has been dragged so far right that, like, what we consider to be so left and so socialist is actually like, Nixon wanted universal health care. He had he founded the EPA. Like, we think of him as this, like, he was this Republican and he was so corrupt and all this stuff. But he, under his terms, like, that was the norm. And then you have and then we had Jimmy Carter, who was actually, by all accounts, a really great president. And he had to give up his peanut farm. What about Trump and how he's profiting off anyway, don't get me started on that. But, and then after that, we had Reagan. And Reagan is the beginning. You can track everything back to Reagan. Reagan was the beginning of the end for the way that our country was. And he, as a governor, did away with free in-state tuition for the U.S., like all of your public universities. University of Southern California, University USC Davis, like all of those used to be free. And there was a very, like, it was a memo that came out where they didn't like that people of color were getting a free education. So that changed. And that just snowballed into everything. He did away with the fair and balanced news reporting, which is why you get the lies that you get on TV. News was so different. So the messaging, we're coming up against that messaging. And it's very, I don't know how we're going to fix that. We need to bring back the that fair and balanced news reporting to get the truth on the airwaves. But I don't know.
I don't know how you're going to regulate speech.
No, I know. But we did have that at one time, and that was done away with driven hard by Rupert Murdoch. Surprise, surprise. And he got, Reagan to do that, whatever. So one of the other big failings is young males in this country. I just read a report or an article about how they're, being left behind. They, in higher numbers, are still living at home over women. They are outnumbered in universities. I think 3 to 1, 3 to 2 by women in universities. They have a higher rate of suicide. They're struggling, and we are not reaching them. And people like Charlie Kirk and that disgusting Fuentes person, and all these other right-wing people like Joe Rogan, who, they're speaking their language. Those people are speaking the language that is touching.
I wouldn't call Joe Rogan right-wing, Fuentes is definitely a self-proclaimed neo-Nazi, so he's not that wholesome. And Charlie Kirk at least liked to debate people in the open. So there's enviable qualities in somebody who is willing to bring it on in an open forum and have conversations. I obviously didn't agree with a lot of his position. To your point, though, the Zoomer mail is a mess.
Yeah.
And Scott Galloway now has made a third or fourth career out of messaging this to the world using statistics and his own bombast to reinforce and remind us that the Zoomer male is an incel living with his mom in the basement, which sadly is often true. So this is correct. And these folks are gravitating toward the right and the radical right because they are angry and they feel disenfranchised. So then what can the Democrats do to bring them back? Why is Nick Fuentes more popular than Gavin Newsom for this crowd?
I know. I don't know. I'd have to dig deeper into what areas are we discussing, because you've got education plays a huge part. So are we talking about 20 somethings from red states where they have very successfully dumbed down their population? I'm sorry, it's for lack of a better word. They have purposefully, because they know that people who are less educated follow Republican rule. It's a fact. That's been studied, and you look at like especially in this last election, when you look at the two states that purely voted one way. All the other states, there was a mix. Even the swing states that voted for Donald Trump, they voted blue down the rest of the ticket. There were two states in the whole 50 that voted one way, and that was Massachusetts and Oklahoma. And when you break down those two states and you look at levels of education, you look at like happiness, the happiness quota, all of that. It's just they're polar opposites. And so I'd like to see where the skew is for these young people, to find out what messaging they need. How do we bring them back? And I think the problem was like Bernie spoke to a lot of these kids, and I call them kids. Anyone younger than like 30 is a kid to me, but he had them, and then they went with Hillary, and that was just like, oh, we're not being listened to, and like, of course you're going to be disenfranchised. And to speak to Mondami, could he be elected now for president? No way. But let's see how he does in New York. Let's see how he matures into the role. He's 34, which I think is phenomenal. Sometimes people are like, oh, but he doesn't have experience. And what was the other thing I was just reading the other day? And like Kennedy. Oh, I was just reading Kennedy's Jack Kennedy's grandson, Carolyn Schlossenberg.
I saw the he's trying to win.
Yeah, well, he's running for, and everybody's like, oh, he doesn't have experience. Well, his grandfather was a congressman at like very young.
I'm not a huge Jack Kennedy fan.
Oh.
And I just think of Bay of Pigs, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and Vietnam as just a few examples of why Jack was a little bit in over his head. So he was charming. He had a funny Boston accent. He
did a lot of good things.
He did. But I think for the most part, he has been, shall we say, overrated thanks to his sheer charisma and his youth and what he represented at the time. Yeah.
I don't mean to say that he was like, but what I want to say is we have too many old people in politics.
That is categorically correct. Oh, and Biden epitomized that, which is another reason the Democrats got annihilated. Annihilated.
Yeah, but Trump is also, he is going through dementia right now. He doesn't know what end is up. He is worse than Biden.
That is just that is factually incorrect. I just
Come on.
I'm on your side, but
Uh,
let's keep it real for the sake of our own credibility.
all
Trump
right.
is not as bad as Biden, and Trump's greatest strength, whether he's popping 100 Adderall a day or whatever it takes,
No, he
is his raw energy and this feigned machismo charisma. So you got to give credit where credit's due, and you got to blame folks when they screw up. And Biden blew the shot and wrecked it for Kamala, I think. And even the idea that he would run again,
right.
unbelievable.
You're
And the
absolutely
Democrat, and it was a cover up, the Democrat cover up that this guy could actually do the job. It was shameful. It destroyed trust.
yes.
And surprise, surprise, all those reports from Fox News and OAN that Biden, for the most part, was a walking zombie were correct. And it's shit like that that destroys the credibility of a political party at its core. And the Democrats blew the shot on that.
Yeah. But you know what? They're not the only ones. Because come on, Reagan in his last term.
But in all fairness, we're doing whataboutism now, which is like, well, what about Reagan? It's really just not fair.
The Biden presidency was very successful with the economy. They inherited a shit show and they did well. And so, yes, you're right. Was he a walking zombie? Whatever. But his administration got some really important stuff done and got some really important things that Trump has now killed.
Yeah, I know. But let's hold on that for 1 second. Okay. So under Biden, the Federal Reserve blew the shot too. So the second COVID stimulus package, which amounted to trillions of dollars pumped in out of raw debt out of nowhere into the economy, accomplished only one thing, and that was inflation. And that was a huge mistake. And then that, they dropped the ball in center field, and then they overthrew home plate when they lied about that too. They said, oh, inflation's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. The president is a walking zombie, and don't worry about the price of consumer goods. It's all great. It's all awesome. And guess what? We've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on infrastructure, even though you're not seeing any benefit from it. And oh, by the way, the border is not a problem when you had record numbers of people coming across that border. So it's not just messaging that's a problem for the Democrats and the left. It's policies that have failed. It's policies that prove to be bad for the economy, bad for the security of the country, all wrapped up in this illusion of competence at the top.
Okay, but then you look at what's going on right now in terms of, you want to talk about inflation. These tariffs have just...
Yeah, they're insane by any stretch. And most Republicans think they're nuts too.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. But then we also have to look at his ballroom that he bulldozed the East Wing. He's a renter, basically. That's the people's house. That's our house. He went in and without permits or anything, he just bulldozed the East Wing. He's going to put up a ballroom that architects are looking at and saying, doesn't even, the specs on what he's saying it's going to be, they're like, this is not even conceivable, and it's going to be bigger by all accounts than the White House. And that we gave $20 billion to Argentina, Venezuela, to prop up the dollar, right? Is it Venezuela?
No, Brazil.
No, it's not Brazil. No, it's I know. I always
That's
confuse the two.
Argentina, right?
It's Argentina.
Argentina. Argentina,
Yeah.
they've got family interests in Argentina, so
Yes.
they probably
Okay. So
did that.
the Secretary of the
And
Treasury.
speaking of Venezuela, we might be at a mini war with them.
And then that's insane. And so we've got $20 billion that we can give to Venezuela. We've got hundreds of millions of
Argentina.
dollars. Argentina. Hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to this ballroom. And then you've
The
got
hundreds of millions of dollars are coming from his friends. They're
his
not from
friends. That's
American
great. No, of
taxpayers.
course, and that's not a bribe. That's not a bribe. And then we've got the billions, I think, that we're spending on hiring these, immigration enforcement officers that we've now apparently done away with any kind of background check or any kind of, because we're just so desperate to recruit people. But we don't have money for anything else. Where is this money coming from? Also, like Kristi Noem.
It's coming from healthcare subsidies.
Yes. It's coming from places where they're saying, oh, we can't pay for SNAP and we can't pay for healthcare. And yeah, I mean, where are the people to be outraged about this? Like, it's already so expensive. Healthcare is already astronomically expensive and should not be tied to employment. It is a human right, like it is in most other actually all other first world countries. And the fact that, these healthcare, companies are raking in billions in profit. I mean, United Healthcare, 60 billion in profit, or was it 90 billion that they made last year before,
Yeah, the insurance companies have the biggest racket of all. They make 10, 100 times as much as the pharmaceutical companies. They've got
Yeah.
awesome lobbyists.
Yeah.
Everyone is always shitting on the drug companies. And as well they should. However, the insurance companies are 10, 100 times worse than the drug companies. And one reason that drug prices are so high is because the damn insurance companies don't want to pay for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable how, talk about messaging and conditioning. The pharmaceutical companies have been on the ass end of both political parties for decades, while the insurance companies are like,
yeah, right?
They're the ones making the real money. They're the ones with the real lobbying power. And they're the ones with the terrific messaging. No one ever used to talk about them.
Yeah.
No, and then the CEO got whacked. Yeah. And then everyone was like, free Luigi.
Free Luigi.
And part of me, I was like, finally people are paying attention to the insurance companies.
Yeah.
That's where the real corruption is.
They spend millions on lobbying. Yeah. And they lobby on both sides. Yeah. We got to get rid of the friggin' Citizens United.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. Like that. And the fact that their messaging is because of the lobbying, they're just so effective on saying like, oh, you don't want the government to be involved. And everybody points to like the UK to say, oh, you don't, because if the government is in charge, you're going to have to wait for your specialist. You're going to have to wait to see, all of that was gutted by the Tories, who are the conservatives over there. So they want privatization. They've gutted their healthcare. But if you look at Spain, you look at Sweden, you look at any of the Nordic countries, they do very well. And it's my thing when people are like, oh, you have to wait forever. I had to cancel a doctor's appointment recently because I had something to do for work. And just for my annual physical, it's pushed out. This was October. It's pushed. They're like, oh, our next available is in February. And I had to make an appointment with a specialist. Again, that was like we're booking into March, and it's already happening here. And anyway, it should not be tied to employment. Healthcare is a human right.
Yeah, I mean, look at Canada. Here's an example. I have a colleague, and I had him as a guest on the Ink and Algorithm show because he wrote a book. So I know him real well. And then he has a mom who's getting older and is infirm and needs to be taken care of. So he's got his brother and sister in the States. He's Canadian. It's a Canadian family. They're an emigre family. They're from Pakistan in Canada. They're all professionals. And mom is getting old and needs to be taken care of. So he lives still in Toronto, but his siblings have moved to New York and the States. And they're like, we're bringing mom over here so she can get better care. And my friend in Toronto is like, why the hell you want to do that? It's going to bankrupt you, number one. And number two, the care isn't, what difference is it really going to make? So he's trying to convince them of the obvious, that Canadian healthcare is imperfect. Canadian healthcare does have long lines, and Canadian healthcare is what it is, but at least you don't go bankrupt.
Right. Yeah. Other countries look at us and they're like, they can't believe it. They really cannot believe that everybody, you are really like, if one catastrophe away from bankruptcy in this country, if you break your leg or you break your back or something and you are out of work and you only can, stay out of work for a short amount of time on disability, and then, you can't get back to work. Let's say what are you going to do?
Yeah, you know why I think governmentally we've been allergic to universal free healthcare? It's a public enemy. It's fear of a black planet. We don't want to give healthcare on an even playing field to minorities, to people that we feel deserve or need to be disenfranchised. And if I'm making $1 million a year, there's no way that you're putting me on the same level as someone making $20,000 a year to get the same kind, ostensibly, of healthcare. No way, man.
So ridiculous.
No way. It's because we've got a big minority population, because we've got this disparity in income. And the people controlling the strings and the purses are like, there's no way we're going to go full Bernie Sanders on this.
Yeah.
And that's why Scandinavia is always a bad example. Because Scandinavia is demographically and ethnically, racially homogeneous. And they do things as a tribe that we can dream of, but we're a long way away from that.
Right.
Just to be honest, it's racism, it's class warfare, and there's no way I'm going to be on the same health plan as Tyrone in Baltimore. I really believe that's true.
And that's why Trump won, though.
Yes. And ironically enough, here we're going full circle, Tyrone in Baltimore voted for Trump.
I know. The messaging. It's so, because they've been so effective at making people fear and making people have somebody else to blame. It's like, it's the poor ethnic people that is my problem, not the billionaires that's my problem, which is the real boogeyman. But but the thing is that we have a racist problem in this country, and what it speaks to is that I feel like we are reliving, in my opinion, we are absolutely reliving Nazi Germany right now, with the way that they have come in and they're like, well, we're just going to take away the criminals. And they come in, and that raid, that midnight, that so unconstitutional, terrifying raid that they did in the middle of the night in Chicago with SWAT and coming in like SWAT, they had helicopters or whatnot. Like 9 or 3, I'm so bad with remembering numbers, but like 3 or 9% of the people that they hauled out of there, I think it was 3%, were actually gang members. The rest, they just terrified and traumatized the entire building. And all those kids, having a background working in psychology, I think about these kids that have been hauled out and terrorized, and like, what is that going to cost us as a country dealing with the mental illness fallout from this? I mean, I don't know that you can conceive of this, but imagine being awakened in the middle of the night to people storming in your door, masks on, heavy artillery, armed and everything, and hauling you out of bed. I mean, that's inconceivable that this is happening in our country. And they're bashing windows in, hauling people out of cars just because they're aren't white or maybe have an accent. And, you know, the percentage of any of these people that they're deporting or that they're actually criminals is very, very, very minimal. And by their own standards, they wanted to be like, we're deporting 1,000 people a day or whatever. And they're scraping the barrel, trying to get like at least 300 people. And they're not bringing up their numbers, and they're going and they're looking at now, the dreamers who was it Biden? No, under Obama, when they voluntarily filled out all this paperwork with the government to say that, yeah, I came here as a child with my parents on, like they're using that documentation now to go after these people. They're looking at, employment records. And I know that there are Republicans out there that are like, it doesn't matter that they're not criminals. They came here illegally and they need to go. But that's not okay. That's not the American way. Maybe they overstayed their visa. Maybe they didn't crawl across the border. A lot of the people that came here came on a, like a tourist visa and just stayed. And they're doing the work that other Americans don't want to do. And I have such a hard time like being okay with these people being kidnapped and, taken out of their cars or their homes. And what's the fallout going to be?
You got no pushback from me on this. Notice where I've been kind of playing devil's advocate and stirring the pot a little bit. Categorically, I agree with you that mass deportation in principle is stupid. If you look at the growth curve of America, we actually need immigrants just to stay on par with our own population. Most immigrants are law-abiding, mind their own business. The level of crime, discord that they bring is on par or lower than the average American.
Yep.
And immigration is the lifeblood of the country.
Yeah. Aren't we all illegal immigrants?
So this is a counterstroke to Biden's, I think, in a lot of Democrat failings about securing the border. So I'm not blaming the victim here, but the Democrats really dropped the ball for a really long time in a big way in terms of bringing some kind of order to the border and stabilizing what was then a very chaotic situation. And the Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, and Trump in particular, are riding that wave of frustration and discontent to militarize the states.
Right.
And it's basically turning the screws. And it doesn't take a conspiracy theorist to hypothesize that this is control, that for the National Guard and the military to take over DC. Imagine if an election is contested. Imagine if some kind of funny business is attempted. He's instilling the mechanism for federal control of the states, which is posse comitatus verboten, and is against the Hamiltonian spirit of our country. The feds have power, but the states are autonomous in this way, and it's for a reason. And the reason is that you can't do a coup d'etat shit like what you seem to be setting up. And it's not too much of an extrapolation to think this way. Now, part of the problem, and here I go back into my kind of contrarian skeptic mode, is that crime remains a big problem throughout the entire country. And urban centers, because of their density, have denser crime. It's more obvious. It's more apparent. I lived in New York City. I got attacked in Times Square. I had homeless people sleeping on, the steps of my apartment. I feared for my personal safety on the Upper West Side of New York at 100th Street and Broadway, 3 blocks from Central Park. Gorgeous neighborhood, but I didn't feel safe there. There were graffiti all over the walls, and I'm like, I'm paying $5,000 a month for a 3-bedroom dump, and I feel physically taking a risk. And I woke up every morning in my $5,000 dump, got $1, got $1, got a dollar.
Yeah.
So there's frustration. And
Right.
the Democrats, I'm going back to point my finger at the Democrats. When the Democrats say shit like, but crime is down.
Which
Okay,
it is.
don't bring in the National Guard because crime is down. Hang on for 1 second. When you say that crime is down, well, if crime started at unacceptable levels and you're telling me that it's gone down 15, 20%, and it remains unacceptable because you feel unsafe in your own neighborhood, and then you got this Trump guy who was in the McDonald's drive-through and drove a garbage truck and promised to make America great again, is rolling in the military to clean your neighborhood up.
Yeah, that should terrify you, though.
Then you're like, all right, well, maybe bring it on in because the Democrats didn't do shit for me. And I still feel unsafe and crime is still a problem. And the Democrats are telling me that it's not a problem. This is an issue. It remains an issue. Now, I agreed with you 100% that the states should never be militarized, and Trump is way overextending his authority.
Yep.
But I think the Democrats again are blowing the shot when they say stuff like "but crime is down," or shifting the conversation away from Trump overextending his power and not focusing on, let's say, we got this. The message should be, we got this. You know, Pritzker did this a little bit, right? In Chicago, in Illinois, that we got this. You want to send in troops? You want to spend a lot of money enforcing the peace in Chicago? Bring us, bring us people who can help us instead of the military who will mess things up.
Well, I think crime and poverty go hand in hand. And the further we get with the top 1% owning $33 trillion dollars of the economy and the bottom 50% owning something like 3.2 trillion, that's a problem. You can see this in countries like India, where my husband has traveled a lot and seen, you've got the elite and you've got it's extreme poverty. We're not quite there, but we're getting there. And I think that again, we're going to come back to fucking Reagan. With the state hospitals that he closed, we have a real problem with mental illness in the world, but in this country. And you can't just turn people out onto the street and, think that that's not going to cause a problem for people who want to feel safe. And, people are living, we're going to go in and we're going to take away the tent cities and things like that. And they don't know these homeless people don't want to live in housing. They don't want housing. No, they don't want to live in a shelter where they can't trust where their stuff, like they can't bring their stuff in. They can't worry about their safety. Yes, it's inside, but you've got people that they're robbing from each other. You've got a tremendous mental health crisis. They need help. They need housing. And I think that some of the money, and maybe the Democrats need to get in on this, but especially people who are religious and, Christ's teachings that you think that you're espousing, and he helped the poor. You've got to help the poor. You've got to help them. You've got to feed them. And this is another thing that Trump is gutting, the HUD, the HUD housing. Now you have to get well before you can get housing, but studies have proven that if people have housing, they have then that's step one, and then they can get help. But if you expect them to get help at a place where you get 12 weeks of paid sobriety or whatever, or at most, I think it's 2 years, but I don't think it's that long in this country. And then what? Then you're just going to relapse because you don't have a place to go. You don't have a steady. People need a place to call their own and to have pride in that. And that might be very socialist of me, but I don't see why we can't. You have offices, you have office buildings across the country that are empty because people are not renting them. Let's convert that into housing. Let's subsidize that with the government and give people a place to live and a dignity, and everybody will feel safe. I'm just saying, crime and poverty.
Once again, I can't disagree with any point that you made. I think income inequality fuels crime, which perpetuates this problem. Converting, I had shudders though, because hotels on the Upper West Side in New York were converted in this kind of way, during COVID and whatever, and it created all sorts of problems. So in principle, I agree with you across the board, but in practice, you got to be smart about it, and you need to do it the right way, not the
Yes.
easy way or not the quick way.
Yep.
But we need to find a balance in our own heads between map and territory. So you can say you're conservative, smaller government, or you could say you're progressive, big government, helping everybody. But at the end of the day, the government already is paying our way to such an extent. Most businesses, like the pharmaceutical industry, for example, with Plan D, right? 40% of the revenue of pharmaceutical companies, maybe even 50%, comes directly from the U.S. government because they're paying. So we already have a socialist state. We already have one. This idea that we're just going to gut the government and we're going to go full Reagan, to your point, or now full Doge, is patently absurd, because our entire infrastructure is centered on a very socialist kind of government. The question is, how much do we dial this up? How much do we dial this down? What do we focus on? And how could we think strategically instead of transactionally to make a better society? And I think that's what's really lacking in our politics right now. It's a lot of argument. It's Nick Fuentes. It's these personalities who are frothing at the mouth, and there's no solutions being thought of. There's no critical thinking. It's just noise, and that's infiltrated into into the Capitol. And ironically enough, Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Oh yeah, I saw
one
your
of
post. I saw your post.
one of the
Marjorie Taylor
biggest trolls in Washington.
Yeah.
She got her career being a troll. And she was a maestro of this. She was always positioning herself and acting out, not for her constituents in Congress, but for her constituents at home who were on social media. So a lot of her space laser bullshit and all that stuff was just red meat.
Yes.
Red meat for her peeps. And now it's come full circle and bitten her in the ass. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is like the poster child, is like Cheney's daughter, right? Remember Cheney's daughter was campaigning with Kamala? And Cheney's daughter is the most right-wing conservative person you can imagine. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is the hero coming in for balance and fairness. I mean, we are insane as a culture and a country. We got the memories of a fly, where I got the ADHD, but it's nothing compared to the American public on a smartphone. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. She's come around. Apparently, I think my husband said that she has taken a stance against Trump for two reasons. One, the Epstein Files, and two, because she wanted to bid to be senator, and Trump said no. I think it was senator, or did she want a cabinet position? I don't know. And he shut her down. So she's like, the gloves are off, man. And I'm like, I will revel in her demise. But I agree with her about the Epstein Files, and which segues me into the Epstein Files. It's my firm belief that when Trump was, campaigning on this, yeah, we're going to release the Epstein Files. Yeah, we're going to release the Epstein Files. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And then because he believed, I believe, this is my opinion, but I'm never wrong. I believe that he was such good friends with Jeffrey Epstein and they were very good friends. Epstein found him his whore wife, and she was an escort, and they hooked her up, and it was all arranged, whatever. But they were very, very good friends. That Trump firmly believed he would never record me. We were such good friends. We were buddies. He would never take me down. He didn't mention me to anybody. We were like this. So he firmly believed that he would not exist in the Epstein Files. And then he comes into power. He gets a look at the Epstein Files, or let's face it, he doesn't really read all that well. He had somebody else look at it, and they were like, sir, your name is in here like a lot. And so then he was like, we're not releasing the Epstein Files, like the big 180. And then all of his, like, he'd already hyped up his like MAGA base. Like, yeah, let's go for these because we know there's Democrats in there.
Red meat for the MAGA base, because you have Clinton implicated, Bill Gates, the list goes on. And a lot of people are going to go down when
and they should.
Yeah,
they should.
There's no disagreement 100%. From me on that either.
100%.
So the whole Epstein file thing is like the center of the target for MAGA. And so, for example, deep state, check, all the rich and famous people are having sex with underage girls at this pedophile's island, his plane, his home. Deep state. They're all bankers. They're the Prince of England. It's all one big cabal. And then the QAnon thing was always resting at the core with pedophilia, was its engine of outrage.
The pizza place.
QAnon was all about the pedophiles and the cannibals drinking the blood and all that kind of shit, right? So this idea that rich and powerful people are screwing children, literally, is at the heart of the deep state cabal. Mm-hmm. And the Epstein Files fit that motif perfectly. So Trump, who's the maestro of messaging, say about him what you will, the dude, talk about bloviation. This guy could bloviate endlessly. He knows his audience and he knows how to let it out. The Epstein Files is perfect. That's like dynamite for him.
Sure.
So, of course, he would go for it. Of course. To your point, though, I don't think he was relying on his friendship with Epstein. I think he was relying on the fact that they would never be released. And the reason they would never be released is he's not the only one implicated. He knew that he would be implicated. It's implicating everybody on both sides of the political aisle and a lot of people with immense power and influence. And he felt, the corrupt mofo that he is, a thief is always suspicious about being ripped off.
Yeah.
He knew that the engines of corruption would be too strong to ever release whatever's in there because too many people are going to go down.
Yeah.
And that's what he was banking on.
Yeah, I think we're both right, though. I think we're both right.
And then, surprise, guess what? Like my rant on TikTok, guess what? Donald Trump is now the deep state. He's the fucking president.
Yeah.
He's the one who's in control of everything, right? Because you guys wanted him to be.
Yep.
So how is it possible to sustain this level of hypocrisy?
Right?
And they're like release the Epstein Files, and all of a sudden I'm the guy who controls the Department of Justice, and I'm saying don't release them. The fuck out of here with that stuff. So even MAGA is kind of like, unless you're a complete MAGA zombie, talk about Joe Biden being a zombie. It's like everything Donald Trump says and does is okay by me. And if he changes on a dime, that's okay because he's this genius 5-dimensional chess player, always ahead of everybody. Just you wait and see. He's always right.
Right.
So that's idiotic. But it begs the question of the rest of the GOP and anyone who's sane and anyone who has a daughter and anyone who's concerned about this shit, because it does happen and it's really bad and the victim suffered, is release the motherfucking files. And anyone who's decent is saying that.
Yeah.
And it's the heat is gonna come down. A lot of people are gonna be in those files.
Good.
My one question, though, just to finish this harangue, is I'm gonna put my own little conspiracy theory little dollop on this. Trump controls the DOJ. Let's say they find shit in the files that deeply implicate the Donald. What's to preclude his DOJ from redacting what they find? How do we know as the American public that we're actually going to see those files?
That's a very good point.
I'm not hearing that anywhere. He controls the Department of Justice, and they're all complete sycophants.
Yep.
Look at Pam Bondi. It's like, Pam, can you jump? And then Pam is like, how high, Donald?
100%.
Across the board, right?
Across the board.
Across the board. So let's say they do find something that's damning in there. What happens if that email, that transcript, that whatever piece of evidence just happens to get lost? How would we possibly know?
We wouldn't, unless somebody who had seen it spoke up against it, because it's supposed to go to the committee. I think the committee has seen it. I think that's the thing. They know what they're looking at.
Well, I would hope so, but again, the skeptic in me is that this guy has no morals, none whatsoever. And if anything can benefit him, and conversely anything can keep him out of the hot seat, he's gonna go for it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And the Department of Justice does not serve the president, should not serve the president, but in this we are seeing that they do. He said, "Oh, go after any Democrats." On the Pam Bondi, like you said, how high? She's like, "I'm on it, sir." And
we're doing it for the American people.
And I don't know if you saw today, but like Comey, the inexperienced prosecutor that Trump found to prosecute Comey at literally the 11th hour. It was about to expire, the statute of limitations or whatever.
No, his out of his own personal attorneys.
Yeah, she's so inexperienced. Like, she's never prosecuted.
She's never done that before.
Yeah. She's now under fire. Like, some of the stuff that she's done is turning out to be.
Well, the judge adjudicating this stuff is the fuck out of here with this bullshit.
Exactly.
I mean, that's literally what I think the actual statement that was written, the fuck out of here with this bullshit.
I would. That would be amazing. Yeah, get out of here with that. I mean, it's so bad. And I look at like the three branches of government, and the one thing that is preventing Trump from doing stuff is the legal branch, which is the branch that he could give a shit about in his life. Like, he's like, sue me, I'll sue you. Like,
yeah. And also stall.
Yeah.
But here's the other scary part is, in his first administration, he installed dozens of appellate level circuit court judges who would be emboldened to him, right? They owe him. And then now in his second term, he's got the Supreme Court largely sympathetic to most of his actions. And when they know that it's unconstitutional, or when they know that reasonably they need to rule against him, they kick the can down the road, or they don't deal with it. And to a large extent, they've been ruling on his side, often with these shadow dockets. They just say yes or no, and there's no rationale for it. Yep. However, this is my bald-headed prediction here. They're going to shoot down the tariffs.
I hope so.
They will. Have to. They will, because it's such an obvious overextension.
Yes.
Congress levies taxes.
Yes. Yeah.
Congress controls commerce.
Yeah. Right.
You need to, I quit doing yoga when they asked me to do a pigeon. I don't know if do you ever do yoga? Like yoga?
I have, but I don't know the pigeon. What's the pigeon?
A pigeon is like, for a yoga person, it's just something you do every day, right? But it's just like, you weird thing, and I'm like, and I couldn't do it, and I gave up on yoga. That's I'm done, right? But you need to do like a triple inverted pigeon legally to even remotely justify Trump doing what he's been doing with tariffs by any fucking stretch of the imagination. Seriously, you need to be delusional if some guy, some 79-year-old man popping 100 Adderall a day, wakes up in the morning and just spontaneously decides that he is going to tax, right, or tariff entire countries, entire industries, individual companies by any number he pulls out of his ass, sending the entire global economy and the U.S. stock market into a multi-trillion-dollar tailspin, not enabling companies, whether a mom and pop shop on the corner or a multinational conglomerate, to plan anything at all because they just don't know what's going to happen.
Right. And that is so egregious.
No way. There's just no, and under emergency, under the EPA bullshit, get out of here. These rates have been in place for decades. These disparities, right? These issues that you ostensibly want to solve, the manufacturing problem, which is real, especially for emergency stuff, is real. But we've had that problem for decades. You can't say that your fat ass got into the Resolute desk another time and all of a sudden it's an emergency.
Yeah, by the way, do you know where the Resolute desk is right now?
It's in the garbage can.
Nope. He sent it away because it was being fixed. It's at Mar-a-Lago. That is a desk that
Abraham Lincoln sat at.
Yeah. Even before him. Isn't it even older? It should never have left the White House. It's sitting in Mar-a-Lago right now. That should offend everybody.
If I'd be a historian, I'd be nostalgic for this stuff, this Americana in history. I'd be absolutely infuriated.
But it's not his to take.
Part of me is it's just a fucking desk.
Yeah, but it's not his to take. And normally I would agree with you, but it's, first of all, not his to take. And second of all, has such a tremendous amount of presidential history. No.
100%. You probably have Abraham Lincoln's DNA in that fucking desk. I'm not kidding.
Right? Yeah. I think you're right.
No doubt Bill Clinton's.
I do not begrudge that man. Whatever. They were consenting adults. Yes, there was a power. Anyway, what was the other thing I was going to say? But do you know what's under the East Wing?
Yeah, it's a bunker.
Yeah.
I think my theory, and I did a rant on this too, is that he's not only expanding the East Wing and putting a ginormous ballroom, but he is building out that bunker underneath the East Wing. So if any shit comes down and he's got to burrow his ass down there for a while, like, for example, as Steve Bannon mentioned, Trump will have a third term. So you don't need to get too conspiratorial and put 2 and 2 to make 5 here.
Right.
That when it comes down and he just simply refuses to leave, he just burrows on down there. And since he's hijacked the National Guard and everyone's used to masked people running around, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fan of conspiracy theories.
I know, me neither.
But you'd also be a moron not to fear for this stuff.
Yeah. And I hope it ends for him just like it did for Hitler. That's all I'm going to say. Seriously. And if he runs for a third term, as much as I think, I'm not like a huge, Obama should run for a third term. Like, if that's how we're going to play it.
Yeah, just like the gerrymandering. Gavin Newsom goes, you're going to gerrymander in Texas. I'm going to gerrymander in California. And you know what? He was right about that.
He was very right about that.
He was right about that because
so right about that.
You could, the Michelle Obama, you go low, we go high.
Yeah,
well, what you're doing is you're just smoking something if you're naive enough to think that that's really going to be effective for you.
Nope, it's not. It's not. You
Yeah.
got to fight it. You got to fight them on the playing ground that they're playing on. And it's been
There's
too
no other
long.
way to do it.
There's
There's
no
no
other way
other
to
way
do
to do it. And if anything is going to cut this shit out, it's this
it.
quid pro quo. Because
Yeah.
when gerrymandering gets so over the top, everyone's been doing it forever, ever since, Mr. Gerrymander, they've been doing this. But now it's so over the top that actually might put something of an official kibosh on it. Because
Yeah,
when
right.
everyone's doing it and elections are actually unfair across the country,
Yeah,
then
right.
people are gonna be like, all right, we're gonna have to
Enough's enough.
stop this. Right?
Well, I know the Democrats have been trying to make it something where it has to be done by an independent, like it can't just be, Republicans or Democrats going in. There has to be an independent council or whatever that
Well,
oversees it.
Newsom had the resolution. He had a vote, so Californians got to vote on this. In Texas, they didn't do that. In Texas, the good old boys just sat in a room with brandy and cigars and did it.
They just suck. When you think about like this is the other thing that Newsom they do. Fuck them. Because here's the truth of the matter. You've got California's the fourth largest GDP. We rely on them
In the world.
in the world. And
We're talking countries.
countries, yes, exactly. One state, fourth in the world. And they provide 70%, $70 billion in aid to to other states in the union. Texas is like, I don't know, fifth or sixth. Like they've got a big economy and they take $81 billion of aid. How does that even happen?
That's because those good old boys are smart.
But it's corporate subsidies. They suck. And the people, the thing that people get all up, up in arms about with taxes and SNAP, they're like, we don't want to pay poor people. Like SNAP sucks. SNAP, you have to jump through so many hoops to get on SNAP. And for like, if you make $60,000 a year, $36 of your tax money goes to SNAP benefits. 600 and something goes to corporate subsidies. And that's the problem in this country. And you think, but no. Those corporate subsidies should go away. And the money, that $600 that goes to corporate subsidies, should be paid towards this housing thing that I was talking about.
Yeah, and you know what? This is what blows my mind too. Is like, all right, your $36 that goes to food stamps. So a mom with 4 screaming kids gets $150 a month, so they don't starve to death. All right, you could blame the mom. Go get a job. Whatever.
She has to have a job. She has to have a job. SNAP, you have to have employment.
Yeah. So you can go round and round with this, but poor people spend 100% of their income back into the economy.
Yeah, right.
All right, so you give them a food stamp. What do they do with that? They buy food.
Trickle down economy does not work.
They don't buy $10 million in crypto.
Yes,
they buy food. So when you say it's like it's money out the window, it's like it's literally just money that flushes back into the economy.
Yes.
So all of this moral, grandstanding, you're just pumping money into the local economy.
Exactly.
So I'm not saying, it's like set up it whatever you want, help the poor. We're socialized anyway. There's bigger fish to fry. It's the tiniest fraction of the overall budget. But this all points to the undercurrent that's there, which goes back to my assertions that the heart of the healthcare problem is centered in the same idea of recidivist racism, an inherent sense of American inequality, And this goes back to even Richard Nixon's Southern strategy, which we were hinting at earlier. If you look at the map, the political map of the United States, it's a looking glass inversion. The South was blue as hell, and New York and California were red.
Okay.
What Nixon did to flip it was say, you know what? I'm going to oppose civil rights legislation if you come to me and vote Republican. I'll do that for you. And the poor whites did it by the millions. And it laid the groundwork for transforming the American South from a Democrat hotbed to this idea of the rural, poor Republican, ostensibly voting against their best interests. The game plan was forged by Nixon to get these voters to come to the Republican side, and the bait that he cast was, I'm going to oppose civil rights legislation. That's how a lot of this started. So when Trump is, again, in the McDonald's and doing the drive-through and the garbage truck, and he's appealing to all of these minority disenfranchised voters, it's very much the same kind of mechanism. Democrats bad.
Right. Fear,
And
fear.
I am going to make your life better, more affordable.
And it's not, and he's not. He's not. And that's the absolute point.
That will be the saving grace of the Democrats. Because the Democrats, as I've been harping, have fucked this up so bad. And now the second chance, ironically enough, for the Democrats will be Trump's insane tariffs, which will just lead to more consumer prices going up, jobs coming down, inflation going up. Pulling back on these benefits. When healthcare premiums double, triple, then who are you going to call? You know, Trump busters. And when a lot of even this ICE raid stuff, the savagery of these violations, and then the overreach of the military in the states, when you start adding all of these things up, people feel less safe, not more. People are poorer, not richer. And they feel even more disenfranchised than they felt before. And this is an opportunity for the Democrats to try to come back.
What is your answer? What do you think they should do?
The Democrats? I think the Democrats would be really smart if they learn how to win elections based on who's doing the voting. So rather than decide like we need to go progressive left or we need to go centrist, let's be a centrist party. Look what happened in the last election. You got Mamdani, who is progressive, free buses, we're going to own supermarkets, right? Rent control.
But I want to be clear on this. He only won supermarket. So he's not taking away. People are like, oh, it's government supermarket, it's communism. It's just going to be one in every borough that people can go to get. There's still capitalism.
I am not optimistic that Mamdani is going to, net benefit New York. I'm not optimistic. But, rock and roll. He won. He's in it to win it. But the point I'm making, though, is at least now, 51% go for it, right? He wrecked Cuomo. And he annihilated the Republican candidate. So progressive liberal, young, charismatic Muslim worked in New York City. That wouldn't work in New Jersey, to your point, right across the Hudson. It wouldn't work in Virginia, and it's not going to work in Ohio. So what the Democrats need to do is think local rather than obsess over this national kind of messaging. That's number one. And when it comes closer to the presidential election, I think they need a casting call. I think that you should do social media. This is what the Democrats should do. We are looking for a candidate we want a president for 2020. 28. And they should start casting.
We need it now.
They need to cast now. And to your exact point, I agree with you 1,000,000,000,000,000%. And a trillion is a big number, like you cited Elon's new salary. They need someone young, super charismatic, and flex. You know how you say I'm a flexitarian? the Democrat they pick needs to be as malleable and flexible and kind of full of shit as Trump. And I'm not saying that they need to lie, but they can't be held to any one position, because they need to kind of be fluid based on who they're talking to and what's going on. So this idea that you either pick Gavin Newsom or you pick AOC is a mistake. They need someone entirely new, I think, and someone who can kind of play ball.
Right. And they need that now. The thing is, that person needs to be here now. Like, so who is that person?
I don't know.
You? Me?
I don't know. Ain't me. Ain't me.
No,
I'm too old. I'd vote for you.
Let me go start campaigning.
What do you think the Dems should do? I mean, do you think choosing AOC is a good idea? On the other side, choosing Gavin Newsom. I mean, Gavin Newsom is very presidential. He looks presidential. He fits the good-looking white guy with a full head of hair model.
Yep.
And he's incredibly articulate. He's amazingly fast on his feet. He's aggressive. He's kind of douchey, like Trump. So
I agree.
So he's got it where it counts. And we've had homeless problems in California, and there's a lot of problems in addition to the homeless problem in California. And you could say that he's coming in with a lot of baggage. But when it comes to raw charisma, personality, presidential look and demeanor, and ability to really deliver in a messaging kind of way, Newsom has it. He's a powerhouse. He's really, really good at this. But I'm not sure if if people would buy it. What do you think?
I know. Well, I think, you know what? I think he's got a good chance. I think he would be actually the ideal candidate in a lot of ways.
All right, this is interesting to me because Gavin Newsom is way to the right of many of the positions that you've been espousing. I would have thought coming into this, my guess, you would have picked AOC.
No, but see, so here's the thing. And it's so upsetting to me that of all the first world countries, we are like the last to have a female leader. This country would not. No, I agree with you. We are too. We need a safe candidate and we need a dynamic candidate. And I think that's Gavin Newsom. I think he is running the fourth largest GDP in the world. So he is already able to be a leader. Yes, you have a homeless problem in California. That homeless problem is largely due to the fact that you have great opportunities, like not safety nets, but like people come because the healthcare is available, the infrastructure is there for them.
The weather.
And the weather. Although you've got a big homeless problem in San Francisco, and that's not like a great, but it's because of the things that the services
and the local jurisdictions will not enforce what Gavin has been espousing for years. Gavin's had plans and they just don't do it.
Yeah. And I disagree with those plans of, so you've got the services, but you got to take it the next step, which is housing. And there's a huge, in LA and San Francisco, you're priced out of housing. You say New York City is expensive. San Francisco, the rents in San Francisco are crazy high because of the tech bros and stuff. Yeah. So you get, your things, it's not perfect, like you say. I also don't think that Gavin Newsom is perfect. God, he was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle.
See, I'm a dude. I'm a dude, and I'm like,
And you
hey,
can see why.
yeah.
Yeah, when they were married, she was much better. Now, and then after, it's just ugh, ugh. So he's got baggage. You're right, and he had that affair, and I happened to be friends with the woman that he had an affair with. But
Wow, ooh, you got that. That's some dirt. That's great.
I'm
That's
not going to
great.
say. Well,
Maybe another
but
time you could wear a hat and
some
be
mask.
here like
Come in as an ice
sunglasses
agent.
and a hat.
Yeah, I'll have an ice agent. I'll just wear a mask, gun strapped to my back.
Yeah, so you're throwing it in for Gavin. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
because and then what he needs to do to make it oh, my personal opinion, and he also skews a little centrist, Pete Buttigieg. I love him. He is so good.
He's the most articulate
Oh, he's
politician
so good.
on the planet.
Yes.
On the
Yes.
planet.
I
This
love him
guy
so
can
much. Yeah.
orate his
Yes.
ass out of
Yes,
a
he's
paper
so
bag.
yeah. And he was military. Like he could be good. I just don't. I think there's too many people in this country, especially the ones in MAGA, that have been like, "Oh, we got to worry about the trans people, and we got to be like anti-gay." That I don't know that he should be, because I would love a first husband. But anyway, Gavin Newsom, if he ran and then filled his cabinet and uplifted progressives, I would be absolutely like if he had a progressive running mate.
He would do that anyway.
Yeah, that's because that's the way that this country.
The intrigue that you would hear about would be Gavin keeping the progressives domesticated.
Right. No, and I'd be like, let them.
I've been shitting on Biden as well as I should. But Biden's biggest problem was what to do with the progressives. And it really short circuited his
Yeah,
own messaging.
yeah.
He completely blew the shot over and over again. He got the worst of it. So
Right.
he let the progressives kind of steer a lot of policy and a lot of messaging. And
Did
at
he?
this and at the same time, I think they went rogue and the fissures were discernible. And I just think Biden blew it with the progressive.
Biden blew it. I agree with you. He did kind of blow it, and but that's the difference I think between Democrats and MAGAs, is that we can acknowledge the failings of our leadership and the failings of our people.
Well, that's because we lost.
No, not even before. Even before this, I was happy to say, oh, look, Obama was not perfect. Clinton's certainly not perfect. But any MAGA, they're a cult. They cannot
100% true.
say that there is anything wrong with Trump.
Out of the mouths of MAGA babes, I've heard Donald Trump is a genius.
Ugh, and he's so not. He's a cult of personality. That's what he is. He knows what to say, when to say it, and he's a big distraction for what's going on behind the scenes. And that's why they want him as a leader. I think every single Republican. Yeah.
He's a classic cult leader type. He looks funny. He talks funny. He's kind of weird. He's weird. Cult leaders are usually kind of weird. Yeah, he's weird, and it comes up from here. It's all emotional.
People are like, oh, he's like my uncle. He's like my drunk uncle, and I love him. And it's like, that's who you want to lead the free world? Listen to yourselves. And I knew so many women who have worked with victims, women who that they're just like, with the first time around, oh, his whole Billy Bush thing, oh, it's just locker room talk. I'm like, what? Like, I can't. People are excusing him for so much. It boggles my mind.
He's tapped the nerve. I oftentimes go through this cycle when I try to figure it out. Without George Bush Jr., you never would have had a Barack Hussein Obama, because Bush blew the economy. He blew Iraq. People were done with this Reagan style government and attitude. basically, with overextension, especially with the foreign policy mistakes. And then so Barack Hussein Obama won. Not one term, but two. Oh my God, a black dude in the White House. And then it's
That
no
freaks everybody.
accident that Donald J. Trump from The Apprentice, with all of this birther bullshit, wins in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
after Trump, everyone was wiped out with his, inject bleach for your COVID and the nonstop chaos. And
Yep.
along comes Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe is going to calm everything down, make
He
everybody
did.
feel good.
He did. He
And
did a lot for the
and
economy.
sorry, MAGA folks, Biden actually did win. And
Yes.
and
That's right.
after Biden's zombie escapades with everyone's memory of a fly in our ADHD society, where 4 years is like 400 years, well, let's bring back the Donald.
Yeah.
So we teeter-totter back and forth between extremes because we suck as a country in terms of our critical thinking. We have no knowledge or interest in civics and education. And we treat politics like a sport. We pick our team and we
Woohoo!
rally, and it's us versus them, and we're
Yeah.
all morons.
Yeah. Right. And that's on purpose. And it's on purpose. It's on purpose. Nobody teaches civics anymore. They don't teach you, I mean, geometry, like why? That should be an elective. That you should be teaching kids how to do their taxes. You should be teaching kids in every school. We should be talking about government. We should be talking about civics and how it matters. We should be teaching kids how to balance their checkbook and do their books.
Yeah, fix a sink. And also,
Yes.
consider your career options. Like,
Yeah.
in high school, they had one career day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're thinking of these monumental life decisions, and our educational system is trash.
Yeah.
To your point,
Yes.
we're learning a
It's on
lot of
purpose.
garbage in one ear, out the other. Zero pragmatic education. And the fundamentals are overlooked or brushed over. Yeah.
Get rid of, make certain things electives like geometry. If you want to be an architect, that was like a whole semester or year, I can't remember, wasted when I should be learning how to do my taxes, how the government works, like in a full class taught from beginning to end. And they don't want you to know that. They do not want you to know that.
Yeah.
They want to fill your head. They distract and whatever.
Even sex ed. Like I have a 19-year-old kid. Okay. And then we're blessed with frank conversations.
Same.
And we live together. He's independent. He's doing his thing and he's thriving. And I'm really proud of him. It's awesome. But sometimes he asks me questions like he's dating. And I'm like,
how do you not know that? Or
I'm happy to answer this for you, and I'm convinced I'm probably going to give you decent advice just because I've been around a little bit. But wow! And this kid went to schools in New York City. Now imagine going to schools in Arkansas or Des Moines.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
They don't want to teach sex ed.
Wow. Because the parents have gotten upset because people want to sue because people get triggered.
Yeah, right. It's ridiculous. In our school system, which was great, when the kids were in 5th or 6th grade, they would separate the genders and the people, this at the time, I wonder what they would do now, and they should be sensitive about it for the people that are non-binary in this age group. But they each had to watch a video about their own gender. And then the next year they watched the video about the other gender. So it was like, here's how your body works. Like, these are things that are going to start happening to you. And but it's all just like the guys are watching, and it's all like, oh, they laugh and it's awkward. But then they see the next year, the other one, and it's all very matter of fact, and it's all done very age appropriate. And then same, like I'm very open with my kids. I always have been.
Yeah,
Always.
and I think that's necessary and important, but not every kid has that
I know.
blessing or luxury, right? And I went to schools in Chicago, suburbs of Chicago, and we're looking at like the 70s, okay? So it goes back my tender youth. And there they had pretty good, I think we had pretty good sex ed. So you know how you just brought up, you learn about your body, and the next year you learn about the other. We had this compressed in one class.
Oh,
So
jeez.
I'll never forget this. I know we're going off on a tangent, but this is
This
really
is
endearing
okay.
and kind of funny. So we're watching a movie, and I don't remember the exact details, but there were body parts and things happening.
Just
And
imagine.
they were showcasing the male system and what kind of goes on. And I remember there was this, you know, young female. She was my age, and she kind of looks over like, "Ah, that's your little thingy." And then they go to the female. And then, a few minutes later in this movie, they go to the female. And then I kind of look at her. And
We have
she's
it so
so
much
embarrassed.
worse.
She's so
Yeah,
embarrassed. She's like,
yeah, yeah. We have it so much worse. It's like, well, that's
so
a
we
hilarious.
bonded that way.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But the point there is that a lot of what we've been talking about over the past couple hours is this deficiency in
yeah,
American
that's all.
core education,
Mhm.
ability to critically think, find nuance, and
Yeah,
now have an open, constructive conversation rather than a frothing at the mouth,
right,
bullying shit show on social
right.
media.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that a lot of people that have voted for him are realizing that they haven't, and we can't. Yes, on the one hand, it's like FAFO, and on the other hand, it's like these people were just misinformed and they were misled. And you know, there's the woman in Arkansas. Is it Arkansas or Indiana? No, she's a farmer. What is her name? Kristen. She's running against Tom Cotton. So she's running for Tom Cotton's seat. Screw him. Oh, screw him so hard. Um, and she's a fourth generation farmer. And she is boots on the ground seeing how Trump's policies are putting family farms out of business. And she's running for office. And I hope she wins. I really do. I think she will be.
Tom Cotton is the looking glass Pete Buttigieg. So Tom Cotton is also incredibly articulate. That guy can bullshit his way out of a paper bag, but he's deceitful and manipulative and opportunistic, and that's not partisan. He will admit these qualities of
Right.
himself. But yeah, Tom Cotton's got to go if we're
He's
going
got
to
to go.
make any kind of real progress here
He's got to go.
in the country.
Yeah.
He's one of the worst of them because he's so talented.
Yeah. Right. The other one that's really bad is Ted Cruz. God, so bad.
Ted Cruz is a caricature of himself.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you ever
yeah.
seen my husband and I went and saw Al Franken when he came. He did a tour through Boston, and he was so funny. He was like, he said he's like, he's like how did he put it? He said something like I hate Ted Cruz, but he's like, but I no, how did he put it, Scott? Do you remember? It was something like where he's like, I like Ted Cruz a lot more than
I like Ted Cruz more than all of
I like
the
him,
colleagues in the Senate.
and I
fucking
hate Ted Cruz.
Well,
It took me a while to get there, but he basically was like, yeah, he was like, I fucking hate Ted Cruz. But what was the beginning part? It was,
I like him more than all the rest of my colleagues.
I like Ted Cruz more than all the rest of my colleagues, and I fucking hate Ted Cruz. That's what he was saying. He was like, basically,
that reminds me of the
everybody.
line I think John Lennon said, Ringo is the best drummer in the Beatles.
He's such a shitty drummer. He's a terrible drummer. Yeah. Oh yeah, the line is, I like Ted Cruz more than most of my other colleagues like Ted Cruz, and I hate Ted Cruz. So like nobody likes Ted Cruz. And how does he keep getting elected? It's like Beto couldn't win against him. He's so toxic. He's so bad. So bad. It's gerrymandering is a big thing, right? Although he's a senator, so I don't know how to do that. But anyway,
but this was super fun to rehash and to have our catharsis and to duke it out on a couple issues. This is really
yeah, it was
constructive
good.
and fun. I
learned a
am
lot.
impressed and surprised though about your Gavin rah-rah. And I think that that's a cool sign, because I think what's percolating up through the Democrat minions is electability. That if you don't win an election, nothing else matters. You could be
Yeah.
idealistic. I remember arguing with
Exactly.
people, even close friends that I grew up with, who wouldn't vote for Hillary because they didn't like her stance on health care, or they felt screwed in Flint, Michigan, or whatever, that the Democrats let them down. And then I argued then that if you don't vote for Hillary, you're automatically voting for Trump. And Trump has an opportunity to put one, maybe two justices on the Supreme Court.
And look,
And then the laws of the land are skewed for a generation or two. So don't be an infantile moron. If you have values and you want your values to get infused into the actual policy making of the government, vote for a candidate, whether or not you like her or dislike her, because she's going to pick justices.
Yeah.
That's going to outlast any presidency.
I know.
And
absolutely,
I really think millions of fucking people didn't vote for Hillary because of this or that or this or that. Sometimes people just can't think strategically.
She's very unlikable, unfortunately.
That's true. But
I know.
You know, oh well. We've got 3 more years of Donald if he makes it.
Yeah, woohoo! That was so great. I know. So let's hope. I don't know. I have a prayer I say every day.
Yeah, I kind of know what it is.
I'm not going to say it out loud here. But...
Yeah. Meanwhile, you can follow me on TikTok, where I get ravaged and rampaged. I'm saying it rhetorically for our listeners, but I appreciate that. I follow you too. I get ravaged and rampaged by Trump's minions. You know, they're like boom, boom, boom. I can't. In my follower count, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, because sometimes they'll interpret my nuance as being pro-Trumpista, and I'm then like, yeah, because they only watch like 5-10 seconds of the reel. And then all of a sudden I come in and I say something like, who's this fucking bald guy on my feed?
That's hilarious. Oh man. Yeah, it's good though, you know. Controversy's good.
Super fun. So ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, T.H. Forrest, thank you for making time. This was wonderful. Let's do this again maybe in a few months, and when things change, and things are changing like every nanosecond, so I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about then. And Gavin, I'm encouraged by your Gavin enthusiasm. I think doing the Trump parodies has been smart.
So yeah,
and I think that guy definitely has the charisma. He's got the communication skills, the character, and the full head of hair necessary to be president of the United States.
I know, that's the qualifying fact. No.
Thanks so much. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you so much, Mookie. It was great. It was
real fun. And for listeners still with us, T.H. Forrest, I interview her, I talk to her, I find out about all of her cool romance books on Ink vs. Algorithm, the Writer's Pod. And I'll put a link in the description so you can hear all about TH's creative adventures, and pick up some of her books. Give her a read and a listen.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Like, comment, share.